I need a reference for our conversation. You sent me one.
Yeah, I texted you the whole outline.
A reference? Oh.
He has made an outline of what we're going to say and the dates, because I don't know dates.
How,
Producerly and efficient?
yeah.
Yeah.
Gonna be like, yeah, so it comes out on February
Oh, we don't have that date yet.
17th.
Y'all are saying it like I've got details, but I do not have details. Oh my goodness.
There's so many details.
Well, yeah, but like not as many as I'd like.
And I think this one is actually our tar
Oh, there's a tar smell?
smell.
Yeah, perfect.
Right, that is true. Do you want one that's not
What?
tar?
Is it actually tar smell?
Yeah, it is tar.
It smells like tar.
Black tar.
What the fuck?
Asphalt? It's a Swedish and Finnish.
No, not asphalt, but like the thing that
put it on
the
boats.
tar that you put on boats.
I can get you another.
No, it's all right.
No, it's fine.
Wait, what are my options?
No smell.
Not tar?
Not
What color is it?
White.
White.
Oh my god, white was an option this whole time?
Yeah.
God damn it. I would love to see a white candle. Let's see. Let's have a look-see.
There's
You
a
know?
Finnish licorice candy that is branded as tar. Like it smells like tar. And it tastes like tar. Det var du som lovade vita.
Bring me your glass. Okay, and then... You're welcome.
What are you doing? Looking for white candle.
We don't need them. It's fine. I was just making a joke. I know. You're very helpful. Thank you for closing the door.
Oh, that's orange.
Yeah, I told
didn't
you.
remember it being that
I
orange.
told you it was an orange wine. We be
Looks like orange
celebrating.
juice.
We be celebrating. Cheers.
Cheers.
Congratulations on
Thank you.
letting me make a book for you. Hi, I'm Daniel from Good Fight. That's the first time I've said that out loud, which is nice.
Must be nice.
Excited to bring Markus's first monograph to print. It's called A Surrender. We're currently in Sweden. We're here to film the documentary that we published a couple of weeks ago on our channel announcing his book. I've spent the last 8 days here in Sweden. We wanted to sit down and have a proper conversation about the whole process of the book. Most photographers have this idea of making a photo book at some point in their life. I think that's like a really common thing. And most people have zero idea the amount of effort and work that goes into it. In an attempt to honor the effort that we have put in over the last 16 or 17 months, or 3 years, depending on who you're asking and talking about, go through the entire process, have a bottle of wine, reminisce, relax, and, properly celebrate the fact that we made it to this point, because like, holy shit.
There's a lot of work.
I'm so tired.
Yeah.
If you could say hi.
Hi,
This is Markus.
I'm Markus.
This is Markus.
Hi.
How'd we meet is a great place to start.
Yeah, we met. You were part of the team running a photo platform, right? Glass.
Yeah, we can talk about Glass. I no longer work at Glass, but here I am because of Glass, so credit to them.
Yeah. And I posted photos there, and you reached out to me after a while,
Yeah.
asking to do a profile of me or my photography. And at that point, I don't think I had my full name on Glass even.
No.
It was just like this semi-anonymous profile, posting photos.
Yeah, had no idea.
It was a pleasant time.
Beautiful.
Hidden from the world. Everything was calm.
You were a mystery.
I was
Beautiful.
a mystery. Very few Americans traveled across the world to invade my home and make documentaries about me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now that number has doubled.
It has exponentially doubled, yeah.
Yeah.
To one.
Yeah.
It's now one.
One twice.
One twice, yeah.
Whew. Yeah, so the context of Glass is, we wanted to try to build a platform that harkened back to the old days of Flickr, sharing their love of photography and helping each other grow. To not be too emotional about it or anything, your first 365 project was probably the first time that we really saw that in action. Like, holy shit, we're really doing something right here. Candidly, your first photos weren't good.
No,
right?
No, I had been away from photography for a long time, or I picked up the camera once in a while, but I hadn't been shooting regularly for quite some time. And partly because I had nowhere to post the photos that didn't feel like dumpster fire.
Yeah, a capitalist hellscape
Yeah.
bent on destroying the world.
And in the beginning, that was a rough experience to to get into, finding a photo every day.
It was pretty clear that you were growing exponentially through the first even 100 days. We make a joke about your gin and tonic photo.
Yeah, it was a horrible
like your
gin and
third or
tonic
fourth
photo,
photo. Everyone has one, don't worry.
I mean, in the beginning, it was just getting through the day, finding a photo. It wasn't necessarily good, but it was a daily photo.
You clearly started to slowly but surely find your voice, and it felt really good to celebrate your work that early, because it was like clear that you were doing well and that you were learning, but then it was also like encouragement. A lot of the community building stuff I did, what level of encouragement or what level of feedback or criticism or friendship does like this photographer need to like really get going and like really grow? And it was clear that you needed someone to be like, yeah, this is good. These are the parts that are good about it.
Yeah.
Focus more on these parts. Make the photos that are uniquely yours, that you can't not make, and like forget the rest.
Yeah.
You know, there were a lot of like parallel paths in our creative journey.
Yeah.
And I pushed myself, so like I would have a place to push someone like you.
Yeah.
And then specifically so I could have a place to push you. Accidentally, so much of my life has been planned around you for the last like 18 months.
It's a feeling of great responsibility that you have remodeled your life to do things that benefit me.
So
Which is weird.
Yeah, well, you know, it benefits both of us.
Yeah, for sure. Like putting in the effort, doing it every day, and seeing that work develop is really nice. But also, of course, seeing other people respond to the things is really a beneficial thing. It's not, you're still doing it for you, but seeing people respond to things and getting the encouragement to continue is really an important part of it, because it gets you through the slog.
Yeah.
It gets you through the bad
right, like photography's lonely as shit.
Yeah, it's just,
A common refrain that I've seen in the last few years is that like photography is embarrassing. And I'm like, oh, fuck you. No, it's not. It's the coolest hobby in the world.
Yeah.
It is like an amazing, wonderful thing to make a part of yourself just looking at the world uniquely. And that's awesome. How great that is. It's like lonely as shit, right? Like you take the majority of your photos in the middle of the night alone or with your wife in, you know, just go watch the documentary. You'll see where he takes the photos. You know, like you're just trudging around like factories in the middle of the night.
yeah, there's not a lot of people.
Yeah, not a lot of people. And so it's like, such a lonely endeavor, and to see something and to care enough about it to take a photo and then to edit the photo and to share the photo, to have people be like, yeah, I see that too, and that's great. Dude, run through a wall, right? Like the power that you have from just like a single compliment is like insane. God damn it.
Yeah, it's snowing again.
As we kept watching the work get developed, I was also developing a pretty special project in my eyes. God, that would have been the beginning of 2023. Yeah, because you started, your first 365 was 2022.
Yeah,
Yeah.
January 2022.
So you started in 2022 and took a photo every day. You found yourself finally figuring out the type of photo you wanted to take by the end of that year. And so you said, well, you know, that was fun. Let's just run it back. What's a 770 project or
730?
730 project, you know? And so you started again and did another year of a daily photo in 2023. And near the beginning of 2023, I kind of realized that this project is becoming something special. As someone that has helped nurture it and you know, give it the boosts that it needs here and there, I want a place to like truly celebrate this. Which is why I would say probably Q1 2023, I started slowly but surely working on what at the time was called Glass Press, which is now Good Fight. Started reaching out to printers, started meeting people in the photo book industry, started to gather the foundation that I would need to be able to be like, hey, we love your work. Can we make a book of it? And that took many, many months. And at the same time, I was like, oh, I've got my own project. I really want to do this too. So like, I'm doing this for me. I'm not really doing this for Markus.
Fuck that guy.
Fuck that guy. Who cares about him? This is for me. Yeah. He just like kept getting better in that second year. It was like, oh shit, this is happening a little faster than I thought.
Yeah.
Nearing the end of 2023, when I reached out to you, hey man, love to catch up. And this was at the beginning of December, and we ended up catching up on the last day of work on like December 15th.
Yeah, it was a dark day, like in literal sense, in terms of you were exhausted. It was at the end of the work year. It was black as all hell outside.
Mas.
Thank you.
Can you say more in Swedish?
Mer.
Mer.
And Daniel reached out and was like, "Do you have time for a quick Zoom?" Yeah, and the time difference made it so that was the end of the last work day, like the last hour before I went home.
A handful of things happened there, and that's where you broke my life in half.
Yeah.
Complimentary. Positive. It was good breaking. You had just found out that you won the global GFX grant.
Yeah, the Fujifilm GFX Challenge grant.
Yeah. I don't know why you said it the long way.
Well, I think I think they want the brand name in there.
Then they should have come up with a good. Sorry, Fuji. I love your cameras. And you had won that grant for a project that you were going to announce in a handful of months. In that, you were like, oh, by the way, I'm going to shoot a documentary. You just started the Glass YouTube channel a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Is there any tips you have for me? And I was like, yeah, tip number 1, put me on a plane, asshole. Like, you can't do this on your own.
Yeah, the fun thing is that during the run up to getting that grant, they have an interview session with a lot of marketing people from Fujifilm on a Zoom call, and you make a little presentation and you tell them what you want to do, and they ask questions. And one of the questions they were asking was like, so do you have experience of video? Because we're going to need a behind the scenes video of you working. And I was like, not really, but I can learn. It's fine. I'll do this myself. It's not a problem. And I told Daniel, and he was like, yeah, you're not going to do that.
Absolutely.
I'm going to travel to Sweden and I'm going to do it for you.
And then at that same time, the thing I wanted to talk to you about.
Yeah, that was a completely different thing.
I hopped on the call and you're like, oh, I've got a secret for you if you promise to shut the hell up. Told me about that. I was like, oh, that's amazing. Well, great news. I have something completely different. I want to make your book. And you said, funny story, I'm already talking to someone else.
Yeah, I had been in conversation with a German publisher to publish a photo book. And I had a letter of intent.
The thing that stuck with me from that conversation, even though I successfully talked you out of that by existing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It wasn't much of a talking. I was just like, hey, but what if you made that with me? And you're like, that sounds cool. Let's do that.
Yeah, sure.
Was that you were like, but I want to do it sooner.
Yeah.
Because like the plan at that point was May 2024, I think.
I was hoping to publish the book in conjunction with the GFX photo project was running for the spring of 2020. Where are we? 2023. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was going to be an exhibition. There was an exhibition in Tokyo in November, and I was thinking like it would be cool to have a book ready by then.
2024. Sorry.
2024. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was sort of mindful of that I wanted to capitalize or synchronize those two timelines in some way. But still, most of the work that I had presented for the publisher in Germany, who shall remain unnamed, very pleasant company. They were very friendly.
If you can't work with Good Fight, work with unnamed company. They're great.
Exactly. That had been produced during, before the GFX project started, of course, because I didn't know about it when I talked to them. So I was also mindful that, I want to include photos from that project because it's going to be great.
Yeah.
But I still wanted a timeline where perhaps we could go to press somewhere around the early fall of 2024.
So for context here, we tomorrow will be sending Markus's book to press.
It is not the fall of 2024.
It is, in fact, the beginning of February in 2025.
Yeah.
Foolish. We were young.
We were young and foolish. We were much younger.
The plan had been to start Glass Press and to announce Glass Press right now in 2025. But we were going to be working on it for 2024, and you had said, well, what if we did that a little sooner? I said, okay, sure. How hard could that be?
Yeah, it was.
In the same way that I said, okay, sure, I can
shoot a documentary.
I can shoot a documentary. How hard could that be? You know, like walk downstairs after that call in December of 23 and told my partner, I think I'm going to Sweden in February. I'm visiting the Arctic Circle, which I had a wonderful time, filmed your GFX documentary. But like that was probably when we started the real process of collecting your work for the book.
Yeah.
So your 730 project became a 1,000-day project.
That first decision to go to a 730 project was because it was at, like we checked this the other day. It was around day 230.
It was like 280.
Where I started to find something that felt like uniquely mine. There had been hits. There had been like occasional photographs where I was happy with them, but that tied together and formed a little bit of a theme. But around 280, there started to be a streak, and we talked about this, that there's so many, like, in a 365 project, or in this, however long you do it, there's going to be weeks and weeks where nothing really comes out of it that you feel
it's good,
passionate about,
worth having. Yeah.
And then there's a week or two where so much happens in those 2 weeks, and it's transformative in a sense. And then you go back to the slog, and then that slog continues for a long while, and then there's another 2 weeks with gold.
But like the joy of doing things over and over and over for now at this point, 3 years, is that the space between the gold shrinks.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And also, you know that going through the slog is what you do, because you never know when that streak is starting. Like those bad days, those days that feel like you get crap out of it, you go through them with joy, because you know, well, I don't know, it might be tomorrow, it might be the next day that you find that nugget or like that streak of gold somewhere. And I had hit one of those around day 280, and then another one close towards the end of the 365 project. So I just felt I'm just going to continue. And I think the beginning of year 2 was also one of those.
Well, it helps that your best work happens in winter.
Yeah.
And so you have to survive the summer to get to winter.
The summer is miserable.
Yeah.
It's just
fucking
horrible.
awful. The sunshine. Ugh.
Yeah.
Who needs it?
It's like sunshine all around the clock. There's no darkness.
Right. So we're north enough that Markus doesn't actually...
it doesn't get dark.
Is there like no sunset? Or is it like the weird dusk thing? I know it doesn't get dark.
It's not a proper midnight sun where I live. But it doesn't get dark.
But it's like sunset at like 2:30 a.m. and like sunrise at like 4.
Yeah, I think around midnight the sun dips a little bit, and then it gets up around
not a lot.
A smidge, yeah.
Yeah.
So those months are horrible, of course. You can't do night photography. Everything is pretty. There's flowers everywhere. What are you going to do?
Joy in the streets, friends meeting you to hang out, picnics.
It's bad. And then, luckily, the darkness comes back. But the best months are really between December, January, February, when it's dark. It's a lot of snow. It's snowstorms. You get all of the things I like. That I realized for me that becomes a yearly cycle, but also I know that is where I'm going to capture my best work. So continuing through to the 730 was for me a way to get another year of that. And then, of course, the 1,000-day project just became an extension of that.
Which is also bullshit. Sorry to spill the secret, but like Markus is still taking a daily photo and uploading it. He just stopped numbering them.
Yeah, I just stopped counting.
Yeah.
My Lightroom library counts it for me, but I don't.
You don't need to do math anymore. Where we started editing your work.
Yeah.
A ton of photos.
Yeah,
how many photos have you taken in the last 1,100 days?
30,000 per year.
Give or take. Okay.
Give or take. Something like that.
Yeah, because like what editing the book ended up looking like was kind of taking like 80,000 photos down to 800, down to like our yes, no, maybe game was
350.
Yeah, it was like 356 or something like that. In February, I remember specifically, we like pulled out a handful and we're like, these are great. We need more of these, right?
Yeah.
You had so many big building blocks of like these killer images, but we needed glue that would hold them together
Yeah.
in the book.
Yeah.
And so through 2024, you spent a lot of time shooting detail shots and a lot of you expanded your repertoire of, instead of here's just a large snowy factory and
Yeah.
a large snowy building at night, you started expanding into like, here's a detail of that building, here's a detail
Yeah.
of this collapse, here's the detail of that.
It's also, I think, that the theme of the book started to coalesce in some way, because you had, what you brought to the table was, I had a notion that this was, we talked about this as well, I had the idea that this was a documentation of industrial environments in the north of Sweden, which also my GFX project was about, like documenting the industrial transformation of the north of Sweden.
Wow, you really nailed that. It's like someone made you say it over and over on camera. That was
Yeah,
like
I
you're-
said it so many times. I think when we started talking and it coalesced into something a little bit different, it's a narrative that is not tied to these specific locations, but more themes,
Yeah, it was a
emotions,
feeling.
and feelings. That also opened up my eyes to the need to bring other photos into it. But I think also what we did was when we talked about sequencing, we felt like we need more things in between to sequence this properly, but also make another deep dive back into the archive, back into the 60,000 photos, to find things that I had discarded or left out that could fill specific holes in the narrative of the book.
Once we discovered the real point of view of the book and what the book was actually about, which is, like surviving Swedish winter, but also surviving life and like finding joy and beauty in the misery that exists.
Well, spoiler alert.
Grim, a grim spoiler alert. It was like, okay, what's that look like in practice? And so we started to be able to hone in on that, both in the edit, but also in your creation.
Yeah, but I knew this was a thing in my photography, that it was very literal.
Yeah.
It was very much like, okay, so here is the industrial environment, here's the building.
Yeah.
It's all very sharp and in focus, and these are moving from that to something less literal, more emotional, more lyrical in a sense.
Yeah, this is what it feels like.
Yeah, this is
a big difference.
This is the experience of going through it rather than looking at it.
Yeah.
That has been a large portion of my own photographic journey for the last year or so, or more.
For sure.
Yeah, but it's still something that I'm trying to develop.
So we went from 360 down to like probably 80 yeses,
Yeah, I think
and then like 40-ish, 50-ish maybes.
Yeah, I think the total catalog was 120 something with some
in betweenies, like this is kind of good. And at that same time, as we were wrapping up editing down the body of work to the 120 or 140 or whatever it was, I went to that trespasser workshop run by Brian and Matthew.
About that.
It was great.
Yeah, it was,
highly recommend.
Yeah,
I learned a lot from them during that week around sequencing. But the biggest thing that I took away from that week was like trusting the instincts that I already had. Of like having an opportunity to be like, here's my work, here's how I view it, here's how I think it should flow together.
But that's like a very big thing.
Yeah, no.
That is huge.
I understand that it's huge.
Yeah.
And that's like one of the things that I loved being able to bring to you.
Yeah.
Because at this point, I had been staring at your photos for years.
Yeah.
And I had been like...
Probably more than I had, because I just posted them and went on with my life.
Yeah. I am like deeply aware of your photography. And so like being able to...
That has been a creepy aspect of this this whole process, where you point to specific details in every photo that I was like, well,
oh shit, was I doing that?
Was that a thing?
My bad.
I know intentionality is a big thing, and you can have. I mean, there's
supposedly
there is intentionality in some, like in a lot of these photos, but there are different levels of that.
Yeah, sometimes things just happen.
Things just happen. Yeah, there's luck, and it's also like mind opening when someone points out things that you might have internalized, or you haven't seen it, or you have like it might be like subconscious or something like that, and someone just points out the references or the little connections between the photos, and you're like, wow.
Oh, hey.
Where did that come from? And then you realize, no, it's all over the place, and it's probably something you have deeply repressed.
Yeah. Credit
in your repressed little
yes,
Swedish
it's
mind.
repressed. You're gonna.
Yeah.
So then, like, once we kind of established the themes, once we started editing, I came back from that workshop. It was sequencing time. Truthfully, I am shocked at how true to the original sequence we stayed. You had sent me the 120 prints of, these little 4x6s.
Yeah.
And I just didn't get to eat at my dinner table for 10 days, give or take. I laid them out, I looked at everything that we had selected for the book, and then I stared at them a ton. You were doing the same, and you had sent over some initial pairings of like, I really like this photo together, I really love this photo together. I was like, great, thank you, keep them coming. By the way, I'm gonna provide you a finished book by Monday. And you're like, what the fuck?
You just sent me a photo of your dining table with every sequence done.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at it, and I like, just, here's the photo, this is the book. And I was like, but my pairings?
Yeah.
Where are my pairings? And some of the photos for me were not my
Top choice.
Not my top choices. And I remember sending something back like, yeah, we need to cut that one. Can we move this one and this one next to each other? And you like, we're gonna talk about this. We're gonna have a Zoom call. It's gonna be fine. Fuck you.
I just wanted, I wanted to share the intention behind how we did things.
Yeah. Daniel is very supportive. He's also all about tough love. It's not tough. It's soft and cuddly, but it's
just American communication.
It's not the Swedish kind of layers upon layers of politeness before you get to the thing you're actually supposed to say.
Oh, I mean, we'd still be like a year away from publishing your book if we did that.
Yeah, 2 years.
We are writing a poem of unknown origin and an unknown language with your photos. Really nailing that down is how we ended up with the sequence that we do.
Yeah, and I mean, opening up that language and those concepts was a big part of our conversations, like thinking about rhyming, thinking about stanzas and poetry and repetition, but not in a literal sense, but repetition of themes or repetition of concepts. That was a big thing for me, not having done any of this before. I mean, I overthink things. It's part of it's what they pay me for, but in my day-to-day work. But I think also it was still this lingering. It was too literal.
Yeah. I mean, like you had thought you were making a book about Swedish industrial winter. You thought it was going to be 100 photos of a factory. And
or different factories.
Yeah, multiple factories. Yeah, of course. You drove around to many factories.
Yeah, many factories.
I think a really helpful thing was finishing the GFX documentary and finishing that body of work and allowing an understanding that like that literal and direct project was that. And like you've been accidentally shooting multiple bodies of work over the course of the last almost 1,200 days.
Yeah.
And that you had this idea that they were all the same body of work, but really they were using similar motifs in the photos that made them feel similar because you took it.
Yeah, sure.
Photography works.
Yeah.
But really it was like, here's a factory project, and here is this deep meditation on death. And I was like, what if we did the death one? And you were like, oh, yes.
Yeah. I suppose that's the pleasure of photo books, that they contain layers, they contain multitudes. That there is still a running theme in this book of this shift in the notion of industry in the north of Sweden. There's this shift between mega factories and the small local workshops. There's this shift between nature, this tension between nature and industry. All of that is still in there, but it's not what the book is all about.
Yeah.
and that's the freedom, but it's still there. It's still a book. I could look at this and think like, yeah, this is a story about what is happening in the north of Sweden in light of, I don't know, industrial transformation, the shift in the mindset about what capitalism is doing to nature in the north of Sweden. That is still there, but it's not just that. And someone can read it and take away something completely different.
Right. We wanted to make something a little bit more universal. As we sequenced the work and as we built this body of work, we ended up with this, really magical thing kind of on the first try. It ended up being like 75 photos or 76 photos that we pared down to the 69 photos that are in the book.
Yeah. And I was joking about your reaction to my suggested edits. We did do things with it.
We did do,
but the core of it remained. It was, and when we had our Zoom call where you explained the thinking, like this is how the stances, this is how it fits together. These are the connections between these photos. I mean, I was blind to it. It was my own photos,
right?
And
exactly.
I was like, no, I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
But looking through it, and I know we talked about this in another video, but it's valuable to have a second pair of eyes on your work.
Yeah, I mean, like you're just so close to it,
Yeah.
and so you see little things, and you don't notice the connections between them. It's hard to do that on your own. It is hard to appropriately express the appreciation that I have for the wild amount of trust that you placed in me for editing and sequencing this work, but then also for Andre and I in designing it and like building the book, because like it is not lost on me on how hard it is to give up the idea of what you think you're making into the thing that actually wants to be made. Right. Because this is buy the book. Buy the book.
Yeah. That would be great. That would be.
Please.
That would be great.
Buy the book. But it's like it's so hard to do that, to like change your mind on what you've been working on for accidentally, 1,200 days at this point.
Yeah. And I think, and somehow I hope a little bit, that if someone has followed the 1,000 days on, or 1,200 days on glass, and they buy the book, that they will still be surprised. Like they will still not think like that was the selection of photos.
Yeah. And like a lot of, I would say like at least 30 or 40% of the photos in this haven't been published anywhere.
No.
Right? Like these are all brand new.
Yeah.
Because we went hunting in those archives of like,
my setup for a long time was I posted one photo each day. So if I took 20 good photos one day, that was still just one photo.
Yeah. I am a little drunk and I don't want to ramble too long. Is there anything you wanted to hit that we didn't hit that you're like, oh yeah, I'd love to talk about that?
Like the process of designing the book.
Yeah.
Because we talked about sequencing, but then something happens when you start to put the work into a tangible object.
Yeah.
And the feeling of flipping through something, even if it's not the finished book, flipping through something that is representative of the work. That is very fascinating. Just working with you and Andre on the sizing of images, like how big should this be paired to this one, and the the multitude of variants that we went through in order to end up where we did. For me, that process was fascinating and also very long.
Yeah. So like I delivered the original sequence that we ended up all agreeing that was like, oh, holy shit, where'd that come from?
Yeah.
Mid to late August.
Because I had the GFX, the Fujifilm GFX exhibition in Tokyo in November.
Yeah.
And I brought a finished maquette.
Yeah, yeah.
Almost finished, like the
almost finished up the
almost
design.
finished maquette.
So like the spoiler would be, we almost called it Through the Darkness and the Pleasure, because naming it took forever, which is the thing we should talk about.
Yeah, we should talk about that. But it was almost like a finished book.
Yeah, I mean, like the sequence.
I thought at that point that we could send this out to print next
Yeah.
week, but it was not finished.
The sequence that is in here is the sequence that is being sent to the printer, but the photos have even still been re-edited and refocused and improved.
Yeah, and I think also the design has shifted
So
and there are so many choices to make. There is an infinite number of choices to make. And that's part of the fun, I think. I thought my work was done when I delivered the photos and we had a finished sequence and we had discussed that.
We didn't even talk about editing, like the actual editing.
No.
Okay, so a thing that happens forever. Yeah, let's. Do you want the last of this or do you want something new?
I can take the last of that.
Okay, that's for you. BRB. Bubbles? Yeah, we should do bubbles so we can celebrate.
Brief 10 to 90 minutes.
Yeah, so just a quick 5 to 87 minutes more. When you edit a photo for the screen, it's obviously different than when you edit it for a book.
Yeah.
I don't think that is a shock.
Not a shock.
Right?
No.
But I think there's also there was this added difference where you were editing quickly at the end of the night when you were exhausted, and you were editing to share it quickly on a platform on the internet and then go to bed.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I usually, I get home from work, I eat dinner, you watch a little bit of TV, then you realize, I need to go out, get my daily photo. I go out, get my daily photo, come back, edit, post, fall asleep.
Yeah.
And so that editing is always done in a very brief,
Yeah.
perhaps not very thought through, intentional. Intentional is a good word.
Every photo, there's a variance between I would say 10 to all the way up to 50% improvement that we could pull out through editing. But that meant that we spent every Saturday and Sunday for literal hours on Zoom every weekend for a month. Because I remember that it was all of September and one in October. So it was five weekends of 2 to 3 hours every morning for me, every evening for you on Zoom in your Lightroom, just being like, okay, show me this crop. Okay, that's not a good crop.
Yeah.
Let's do a little bit better.
Yeah.
Or maybe let's crop in a little tighter. Maybe let's do this. Maybe let's do that. And
But it was nice because, partly that forced us to have a conversation on each individual image.
And why it was there.
Why it was there, but also what was good about it and what was the thing that we needed to preserve, what was the thing we needed to highlight.
Yeah, and that also led us to killing dozen images and replacing them with other things.
Yeah, and I think also, again, going back to intentionality, having a discussion on, okay, so why is this in this location? But also, there was so much happening on those discussions that wouldn't have happened if I was sitting alone and just sending you photos.
Yeah.
These are the finished photos. Showing someone your Lightroom library and your edits, that is like walking naked through the street.
Oh, man, at the literal start of it, I felt like I was insane, right? That I was doing it at all, right? I was like, oh, just let Markus edit his photos and we'll just put them. I was like, no. Oh my God.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about in any of the videos on how you're colorblind.
Yeah, right.
People really have no idea that you're colorblind.
Seriously colorblind.
Yeah. So there's a specific point in the book that has a red stoplight that was orange, that had been orange for 6 months in the edit and in the book. And I just thought it was a Swedish thing.
Yeah.
That there's just an orange light randomly for a railroad or something. And it was like, no, this means a train's coming. I don't know what it was. Trusted that. And then I was like, hang on a second. Is that supposed to be red? And you're like, what do you mean? Is it not?
No, the colorblind thing came up a lot during editing.
Which it will make much more sense once you view the book on why it came up. But you have to buy the book to understand why.
It's not much of a spoiler that a lot of these photos are dark blue.
Yep. Yep.
Very few colors.
Yeah.
It's a narrow color palette for a lot of these.
How did you just say palette? Palette?
Palette?
That's beautiful.
Palette?
Yeah, it's
I don't know.
I mean, Americans
It's not my
say
first
palette.
language. Yeah.
How do you say it in Swedish?
Palette.
Oh,
So
you
that's
say it in Swedish.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. Don't apologize.
So there is a very narrow set of colors.
Yeah.
Which is not necessarily intentional, but
I mean, you're taking photos of winter in
this is
night.
I mean, this is the colors that exist. It's black, blue, white. That's
Let's not forget gray.
yeah, gray, of course, yeah. When the sequencing included a little bit more color in certain portions of this, we had to have a discussion
Yeah.
about what red is.
Yeah. About
And
what red is.
separates red from, let's say, green.
Turns out big
or orange.
a bunch.
Yeah, there's differences there, I hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are new to me.
I would say I could show you, but I literally can't.
No, you cannot.
Yeah.
There are certain decisions that I have graciously deferred to you
Very kind. Big of you.
because I could literally not tell the difference.
Yeah.
No.
You know, to wrap up the editing stuff, that was like
That was a lot of
that was like 30 hours, 40 hours.
40 hours
on
That
Zoom
was-
of just hanging
Those
out.
were long weekends and nights.
Yeah, and I thought had a great time.
Yeah, it was great. It was also exhausting, but it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I started my day exhausted. That was always fun because I would come
Yeah,
down
I
and,
could go to sleep.
I would come down
Yeah.
to like make brunch or something, and my partner would be like, "Are you alive?" I'm like, "Well, kind of
Yeah.
left it on the field for Marcus up there."
Yeah.
She called you my weekend husband at some point. Which
Yeah,
is very sweet.
my wife has referred to you as my second husband at numerous occasions.
Who's your first husband?
Second spouse, sorry.
Okay, yeah,
Second
come
spouse,
on,
yeah.
fuck. I was like, shit,
Yeah, I have
who's usurped me?
I have a number. I don't want to tell you the number of husbands, but
Damn. It was like a really long process that ended up with just a significantly better set of photos. Oh, dear. Oh, dear.
there are deer.
They're deer.
Are you intentionally putting the bottle there to get sponsors?
Yes. Please.
Please drink our wine.
MoreNaturalWine.com. Sponsor me, bro. So the design process, credit to Andre. He did amazing.
Yeah, Andre, and he had a lot of patience for things that.
So, okay, Andre, you can DM me. You can DM us after this and let us know if it was patience or not. But I think he liked it.
Yeah.
Like, I think he was really like, oh, hell yeah. Like, to do multiple variations of a silly thing.
He did go all in on sending us. Okay, so here are 4 different versions with 4 different, slightly like 5 millimeter differences in.
Yeah, that's like, wait, how many centimeters? How many millimeters in a centimeter? Half centimeter.
Half
It's a half
centimeter.
centimeter. That's
Yeah,
huge.
that's huge. Yeah, there was a lot of those.
For our American listeners, a centimeter is a measurement that makes sense.
I remember distinctly getting a lot of versions, looking at them, and thinking these are the same.
Oh.
There are no difference. There is no difference between these two. So I had a lot of responses to his suggestions that were, all of these are fine.
Okay, so would you believe that there were multiple instances throughout the time that we have been making your book where Andre and I have gone back and forth in our private DMs about figuring out exactly what to send you so you will make the choice that we hope you make?
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of weird back-end management where we're like, oh yeah, okay, we'll send him these 3 options and then he'll pick this one or have not a strong opinion, and then I can say, well, I have a strong opinion here. Or if he has a strong opinion, he gets to explain it, and then we get to listen to it, and then maybe we'll do that one. And we went back and forth around a lot.
I think you misunderstood what I have strong opinions about.
What do you have strong opinions
Paper stock.
But we picked that immediately.
Yeah, because I knew what I wanted.
Well, yeah, that's
And then the second thing
It's a good thing that we wanted the same
yeah,
thing.
exactly. And then the second thing is fonts.
Yeah.
And that luckily
did take a long time.
But
But
that's
that's Andre's
time. But
wheelhouse.
Andre had a good choice in the end, and he had a good reason for it, and I was very happy with it. But the paper stock, it was clear from the beginning it was going to be uncoated, and then we ended up on just picking between 2 shades of Munken, like the
Uncoated.
uncoated perfect Swedish paper. Swedish.
Is Munken Swedish?
It's a Swedish paper.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's a Swedish paper.
Get out of Sweden.
Yeah.
Swedish wine, Swedish Munkens.
Yeah. So it was just a question of how white or yellow we wanted it.
And we split the difference.
We split the difference.
And
It was a
beautiful.
perfect paper. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there were a lot of like intentional small decisions that we made with the book that I'm hoping come through and I hope people appreciate as a nice vessel for the book. A few examples of that would be we did an open spine with hard covers on each end, but you can still see the stitching on the side, you can see the paper, and that was because it feels unfinished and or broken.
And also a little bit industrial.
Yeah.
In terms of seeing the process of the binding.
Yeah.
In a sense. Yeah.
That's correct. Like that was an idea that I had for your book in late 2023.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like I would say probably September 23. So a couple of months before I talked to you about your book, and a year and a half before we ordered it or were able to order it or to, start the relationship with our printer.
We also had a long discussion about the cover stock.
Yep.
That was a whole thing.
Yeah, took me many emails and many emails with our printer and then our printer to their supplier to get the right cover stock, and we ended up with a beautiful black cardboard that they make fancy whiskey boxes out of.
Yeah. Yeah, we went to the Swedish Systembolaget, the monopoly place where you buy liquor in Sweden, just to look at the fancy whiskeys and the cover stock.
Yeah, I was like, hey, feel this box. It's what your book's gonna feel like, which was insane of me.
Yeah. And black on black.
Yeah, we ended up with a black on black. We originally were planning on doing a blue cover, and that was out of stock. So like one of the things that like I think is helpful and that you did truly an amazing job at through this whole process is once there's a situation where there's a definitive answer on something, just kind of accepting it, moving on.
Yeah.
I know that that's like a weird superpower that I have where I'm just like, oh shit, something happened? Okay, whatever, man.
Yeah.
Or like, I took that photo and it's good? Cool. Good enough, let's go. Like, let's move on. But I know that not everyone's that way, right? Like, perfectionism is a curse and a blessing. But
I enjoy working within limitations.
Oh, word?
Yeah. So having a limited number of choices and doing the best you can within those limits is something I really enjoy. So I think every time the printer came back and saying like, okay, no, that isn't gonna fly because of global shortages or
so like the blue cover stock didn't
exist.
It didn't exist in the grammage that we wanted. So we wanted a certain heft to the book and a certain weight to the cover. And they were like, well, we don't have that one. And the supplier has let us know that they have no plans to make that anytime soon. If you would like to print this in the year 2025, you can't use that.
No.
And I was like, oh, I do.
That's a nice thing to tell us.
Yeah, it was very kind of them.
And also, I think ultimately, we went the right way in this. The direction we finally ended up in is I'm very excited about it.
Yeah,
I think if I would have made a choice day one, and that would have been the choice, but we went different ways.
To me.
No, but it's like
okay. Well, counterpoint. I have a little bit of feedback for you. Why the fuck did you mention?
No, but there's this process where you think, this shade of blue would be really nice. We would have.
It was a really nice shade.
Yeah, we would have this shade of.
And the tip-in image on the cover would have been beautiful.
Yeah, it would have been beautiful with that. We would have this shade on the embossed lettering on the cover. It would have been great. And then you realize, no, that's not available. We have to think again. And you fall back on the thing that I would have initially talked about.
Yeah.
If I would just have to suggest something, it would have been black on black.
Well,
because that's my soul.
Okay, so when we make your second book, please make suggestions earlier.
Yeah, but I'm not the designer of this book. I'm just an innocent bystander. Yeah. This is gonna look great.
Innocent bystander, Jesus Christ. Anyway, here's your life's work.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well that was someone else's.
Yeah, it's fine.
Whatever.
No.
Naming it. We've named your book.
Oh, Jesus.
So that took a really long time. So
There's a reason for the selection of the title,
that
which
matches
is
with the work.
Matches with the book, and I would say it unlocked things.
Yeah.
And that also, ironically, unlocked something in terms of understanding the body of work.
Yeah. Which was like deeply annoying.
Yeah, it was deeply annoying that we hadn't recognized that before going through 400 different titles.
Yeah.
And ending up on this one that accurately described much of the work.
Yeah.
In retrospect.
Well, when you know, sometimes you write a poem and you know exactly what the title is because it's in the poem and it's right there and here it is. And other times you write a poem and you are just like, well, that's just its own little thing, and you just kind of let it sit there. And you call it untitled when you share it with a friend or two, and you call it something else and it's wrong. And you share the name and someone goes, are you sure? And we had that happen over and over and over where one of us couldn't like it. We had multiple that were like close.
Yeah.
Like I had one name that I loved that you just didn't like.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, okay, I get it.
Yeah,
it's like
that's a thing that happens. And I also think one of the issues that we had was, again, the question of how literal should the title be in relation to how much description should be in the title. And to be fair, you also at some point told me we actually want someone to buy this book.
Oh my God, yeah, because we want people to buy the book.
Yeah, that's
you.
That was a whole thing, that this is actually something we want people to pick up. But the title that we went for a long time, it was weeks.
Yeah,
Weeks was based on my favorite band that has supplied the soundtrack of a lot of this.
Yep.
Which is a Norwegian band, Madrugada.
Is that how you really call them?
Madrugada.
Oh my God, I've been pronouncing that.
It's an amazing band, and they have a song where a part of the lyrics is through the darkness and the pleasure. And you bought that because there was pleasure in it.
Yeah.
There was not just darkness, it was also pleasure.
Yeah.
It's not perfect.
But it's not great.
No,
right?
it was too long. It was too literal. It was also, our focus group was less than enthusiastic about the title.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
And it still hurts me because this is literally one of my favorite songs. It's literally one of my favorite bands. It's a perfect line, but it's not the right title for this book.
Yeah.
And the title we eventually ended up going with, A Surrender, is the perfect title for this book. For so many different reasons. Some of them we won't speak about because it's a Easter egg. Some of them are because it perfectly encapsulates the whole book.
Does this sound right to you? And she's like, oh my God, that's so much better. And I was like, yeah, I'm really hoping he like wakes up and is like, yeah, that one. And then you woke up and you were like, yeah, that one. And then Andre was like, yeah, obviously that one, guys. What are we doing here? To Andre's credit, his neuroses have been a superpower for this, right? Like
great.
there are a few people in this world that I love more than Andre. And while I can appreciate that Andre and I are different people, there have been times where I'm like, dude, shut the fuck up. Just let's do things. And then there are other times where I'm like, oh my God, you have made me so much better person. You're a hero. I love you.
Andre, as a designer, is very detail oriented, and he thinks about things to a degree that normal people do not think about things. Shouldn't think about things.
Yeah.
You really shouldn't think about things that much, but it's a godsend.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think he thinks a lot about are the typographic implications of prepositions and things like that.
To give you context, like Andre and I have gone back and forth about every decision that we've made for your book, but also for the Good Fight brand, for the Good Fight fonts, for the typeface, for our mark. Like, we worked with an exceptional designer. Hi, Eric Turner. Hit him up for this, and he graciously made our perfect whale. We spent so much time getting the perfect degrees and the perfect angles and the perfect eye and the perfect tail. And like, we spent all of this time hyper focused on like pixel details for your book, for the brand, for my book, for all of these things. And I kept getting annoyed about it because I wanted to move on to the next thing. And Andre's point was always, no, we need to make this as good as the work that we are showcasing, right? Like the type on your cover and on the color. We spent so much time and effort focusing on these little things. And every time I pushed back on it, I was like, man, we just gotta move on. Andre would just be like, no, this needs to be good enough to match the work that we're doing. It needs to have enough meaning. It has to have enough intention behind it, because the work that we are celebrating and publishing is so intentional and so thoughtful that like we need to level up our own efforts and our own work and our own things to match this.
Yeah. And you talked earlier about trust. And I think that is the reason why I have been really happy to just surrender myself.
That's a word pun. That was really good.
Surrender myself to this process and to you and Andre, and surrender my work, because I feel like these are people that not match but surpass my own attention to detail and my own neuroses in terms of representing this work to the extent that it, I don't want to say deserves. Once you reach that point where you feel like, yeah, they're going to care about things to a much greater extent than I do, and I still have strong opinions about a lot of these things.
To be clear,
I am not an easygoing person.
Yeah.
I have very strong opinions about a lot of things. But when you reach someone where you can feel like, all right, I'm not even on the scale of caring about these things, then you can relax and you can feel like, okay, I've done my work, I've done the photography, I've handed off, we've done the editing, we've done the sequencing, I've given my opinions, we have reached a conclusion. It's now in the hand of more competent people, and I know that whatever people feel about the photography in this book, it has been presented in the best way that you can expect. So if you hate the book for some reason,
it's my fault.
No, I was going to say that's fine.
Then you're wrong.
You are wrong. No, but it's if you for some reason dislike the choices that we've made in the process of making this book, don't for a minute think that these are not choices that we've actually made.
Yeah.
These are choices that we have made because we feel strongly about them. You might disagree. It's fine. Yeah. I'm happy to have that. I'm happy to discuss
sometimes
that.
People aren't your reader.
No, and I'm okay with that, because I know that the work that we put into this book, it's not out of comfort or laziness. That's the only thing I can be very sure of, because this has taken a long time.
Yeah.
And a lot of work.
Well, thank you for that. That's very kind of you to say. I remember the first photo that you posted that I was like, holy shit, this guy has got something. It's day 6, 7, 5. It was a long exposure of I think maybe the lake that we were at like a day or two ago.
Yeah.
That road with it was just like a really nice long exposure, and it was like really, really perfect tones and really nice colors, and the stars were really visible, and I just was like, there's something here. I want to see more of this, and I hope that it happens. And 1,200 days later, here we are.
Yeah.
I'm happy to say that like our friendship has been one of the greatest creative endeavors of my life. I am like blown away by the generosity that you have shared with us for making this thing and the trust you've given us. And we don't take it lightly.
Well, on the other hand, there are very few, I don't know, I've only worked with you, but I think there are very few editors that would fly across the world and spend 7 days going through making a documentary about your work and all of your weekends
And cooking.
editing this and cooking. Yeah, the cooking. My God, the cooking.
Listen, I just like, there's
a level of personal detail or work that is being put into this that I think few would do.
It has been one of the most impactful and wonderful creative relationships of my life, and I wanted to honor that by putting forth this effort. So the reason I wanted to have this conversation and the reason I wanted to get us a little drunk so we could talk honestly about it is like, this is truly just a labor of love between a handful of friends who all adore each other and who think you made something really special.
Yeah.
So like, thank you for trusting us with that specialness.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Goodfight.co.
Yeah.
Please buy it right now. Cheers.
Cheers.
God. Now I have to fucking edit this
Yeah, it's gonna be
into something tangible.
it's a mess.
No, that was beautiful.